Hello, my fellow history geeks. This is the last part of this small mini-series here on my channel. I hope that you have enjoyed this small series so far. Please let me know in the description box down below. Just before electric lighting became common in the early 20th century, people used candles, gas lights, oil lamps, and fires. In 1799 to 1800, Alessandro Volta invented the voltaic pile, the first electric battery. The current from these batteries could heat copper wire to incandescent. A Russian physicist and self-taught electrical technician named Vasily Vladimirovich Petrov developed the first persistent electric arc in 1802. An English chemist named Humphrey Davy gave a practical demonstration of an arc light in 1806. It took more than a century of continuous and incremental improvement, which including numerous designs, patents, and resulting intellectual property disputes, to get from these early experiments to commercially produced incandescent light bulbs in the 1920s. In 1840, Warren de la Rue enclosed a platinum coil in a vacuum tube and passed an electric current through it, creating one of the world's first electric light bulbs. The design was based on the concept that the high melting point of platinum would allow it to operate at high temperatures and that the evacuated chamber would contain fewer gas molecules to react with the platinum, which improved its longevity. Although it was an efficient design, the cost of the platinum made it impractical for commercial use. An English inventor named William Greener made significant contributions to early electric lighting with his lamp in 1846. Laying the groundwork for future innovations such as those by Thomas Edison. The late 1870s and 1880s were marked by intense competition and innovation, with inventors like Joseph Swan in the UK and Thomas Edison in the US independently developing functional incandescent lamps. Swan's spools were based on designs by William State, and they were successful, but the filaments were too thick. Edison worked to create bulbs with thinner filaments, which led to a better design. The rivalry between Swan and Edison eventually led to a merger, forming the Edison and Swan Electric Light Company. And by the early 20th century, these had completely replaced arc lamps. The turn of the century saw further improvements in bulb longevity and efficiency, notably with the introduction of the tungsten filament by William D. Coolidge, who applied for a patent in 1912. This innovation became a standard for incandescent bulbs for many years. In 1910, Georges Claude introduced the first neon light. He paved the way for neon signs, which would become ubiquitous in advertising. In 1934, a renowned physicist and GE consultant named Arthur Compton reported to the GE lamp department on successful experiments with fluorescent lighting at General Electric Co., Ltd., in Great Britain. Stimulated by this report, and with all of the key elements available, a team led by Georgie Inman built a prototype of fluorescent lamps in 1934 at General Electric's Nettle Park, Ohio, engineering laboratory. This was not a trivial exercise, as noted by Arthur A. Bright. A great deal of experimentation had to be done on lamp sizes and shapes, cathode construction, gas pressures of both argon and mercury vapor, colors of fluorescent powders, methods of attaching them to the inside of the tube, and other details of the lamp and its auxiliaries before the new device was ready for the public. And the first practical LED arrived in 1962. In the US, incandescent light bulbs, which including halogen bulbs, stopped being sold as of August 1, 2023. Because they didn't meet the minimum lumens per watt performance metrics established by the U.S. Department of Energy. The compact fluorescent bulbs are also banned despite their lumens per watt performance because of their toxic mercury that can be released into the home if broken, and widespread problems with proper disposal of mercury-containing bulbs. As said, there are different types. If we start with the incandescent. In its modern form, the incandescent light bulb consists of a coiled filament of tungsten sealed in a globular glass chamber, either a vacuum or full of an inert gas such as argon. When an electric current is connected, the tungsten is heated to 2.00 to 3.30 K, or 1730 to 3030 Celsius, or 3,140 to 5,480 Fahrenheit, and glows, emitting light that approximates a continuous spectrum. The incandescent bulbs are highly inefficient, in that just 2 to 5% of the energy consumed is emitted as visible usage light, while the remaining 95% is lost as heat. In warmer climates, the emitted heat must then be removed, putting additional pressure on ventilation or air conditioning systems. While in colder weather, the heat byproduct has some value and has been successfully harnessed for warming in devices such as heat lamps. The incandescent bulbs are nonetheless being phased out in favor of technologies like CFL and LED bulbs in many countries due to their low energy efficiency. The European Commission estimated in 2012 that a complete ban on incandescent bulbs would contribute 5 to 10 billion euros, or $5,212 billion to $10,425 billion to the economy and save 15 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Meanwhile, the halogen lamps are usually much smaller than standard incandescent lamps because for successful operation, a bulb temperature of over 200 degrees Celsius or 390 degrees Fahrenheit is generally necessary. But for this reason, most have a bulb of fused silica or quartz or aluminosilicate glass. This is often sealed inside an additional layer of glass, while the outer glass is a safety precaution to reduce ultraviolet emission and to contain hot glass shards should the inner envelope explode during the operation. The oily residue from fingerprints may have caused a hot quartz envelope to shatter due to excessive heat from buildup at the contamination site. The risk of burns or fire is also greater with bare bulbs, leading to their prohibition in some places, unless enclosed by the luminaire. Those designed for 12 or 24-volt operation have compact filaments, useful for good optical control. Also, they have higher efficacies, or lumens per watt, and longer lives than non-halogen types. And the light output remains almost constant throughout their life. Meanwhile, the fluorescent lamps consist of a glass tube that contains mercury vapor or argon under low pressure. The electricity flowing through the tube causes the gases to give off ultraviolet energy. So the inside of the tubes were coated with phosphors that give off visible light when struck by ultraviolet photons. They have much higher efficiency than incandescent lamps. And for the same amount of light generated, they typically use around 1/4 to 1/3 of the power of an incandescent. Your typical luminous efficacy of fluorescent lighting systems is 50 to 100 lumens per watt. There are several times that the efficacy of incandescent bulbs with comparable light output. The fluorescent lamp fixtures are more costly than incandescent lamps because they require a ballast to regulate the current lamp, but the lower energy typically offsets the higher initial cost. The compact fluorescent lamps are available in the same popular sizes as incandescent lamps and are used as an energy-saving alternative in homes. But because they contain mercury, which many fluorescent lamps are classified as hazardous waste, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency recommends that fluorescent lamps be segregated from general waste for recycling or safe disposal, and some jurisdictions require recycling of them. The solid-state light-emitting diode, or LED for short, has been popular as an indicator light in consumer electronics and professional audio gear since the 1970s. However, in the early 2000s, the efficiency and output have risen to the point where LEDs are now being used in lighting applications such as car headlights, brake lights, in flashlights, and bicycle lights, and as well as in decorative applications such as holiday lighting. The indicator LEDs are known for their extremely long life, up to 100,000 hours, but lighting LEDs are operated much less conservatively and consequently have shorter lives. The LED technology is useful for lighting designers because of its low power consumption, low heat generation, and instantaneous on and off control, and in the case of single-color LEDs, continuity of color throughout the life of the diode and the relatively low cost of manufacture. The lifetime of LEDs strongly depends on the temperature of the diode. Operating an LED lamp in conditions which increase the internal temperature can greatly shorten the lamp's life. Some lasters have been adapted as an alternative to LEDs to provide highly focused illumination. The carbon arc lamps consist of two carbon rod electrodes in open air, which are supplied by a current-limiting ballast. The electric arc is struck by touching the rod tips, then separating them. The ensuing arc produces a white-hot plasma between the rod tips. These lamps have higher efficiency than filament lamps, but the carbon rods are short-lived and require constant adjustment in use as the intense heat of the arc rots them. However, the lamps produce significant ultraviolet output, meaning they require ventilation when used indoors, and due to their intensity that they need for protection from direct sight. Humphrey Davy invented the carbon arc around 1805, and it was the first practical electric light. It was used commercially beginning in the 1870s for large building and street lighting until it was superseded in early 20th century by high-intensity white light. They are also a point source of light. They remained in use in limited applications that required these properties, such as movie projectors, stage lighting, and searchlights, until after World War II. A discharge lamp has a glass or silica envelope containing two metal electrodes separated by gas. The gases, which include neon, argon, xenon, sodium, metal halides, and mercury. The core operating principle is much the same as the carbon arc lamp, but the term arc lamp normally refers to carbon arc lamps, with more modern types of gas discharge lamps normally called discharge lamps. With some discharge lamps, very high voltage is used to strike the arc. This requires an electrical circuit called an igniter, which is part of the electrical ballast circuitry. After the arc is struck, the internal resistance of the lamp drops to a low level, and the ballast limits the current to the operating current. And without a ballast, excess current flows, causing rapid destruction of the lamp. There are some lamp types that contain a small amount of neon, which permits striking at normal running voltage with no external ignition circuitry. The low-pressure sodium lamps operate this way. The simplest ballasts are just an inductor and are chosen where cost is the deciding factor, such as street lighting. The more advanced electronic ballasts may be designed to maintain the constant light output over the life of the lamp, may drive the lamp with a square wave to maintain completely flicker-free output, and shut down in the event of certain faults. The most efficient source of electric light is the low-pressure sodium lamp. It produces, for all practical purposes, a monochromatic orange-yellow light, which gives a similarly monochromatic perception of any illuminated scene. For this reason, it's generally reserved for outdoor public lighting applications. The low-pressure sodium lights are favored for public lighting by astronomers, since the light pollution that they generate can be easily filtered, contrary to broadband or continuous spectra. The total amount of artificial light is sufficient for cities to be easily visible at night from the air and from space. The external lighting grew at a rate of 3 to 6% of the later half of the 20th century and is the major source of light pollution that burdens astronomers and others, with 80% of the world's population living in areas with nighttime light pollution. However, light pollution has been shown to have a negative effect on some wildlife. Electric lamps can be used as heat sources, for example in incubators, as infrared lamps in fast food restaurants, and toys such as the Kenner Easy Bake Oven. Lamps can also be used for light therapy to deal with such issues as vitamin D deficiency, skin conditions such as acne and dermatitis, skin cancers, and seasonal affective disorder. Lamps that emit a specific frequency of blue light are also used to treat neonatal jaundice, with the treatment, which was initially undertaken in hospitals, being able to be conducted at home. Electric lamps can also be used as a grow light to aid in plant growth, especially in indoor hydroponics and aquatic plants, and with recent research into the most effective types of light for plant growth. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope that you have enjoyed watching today's video. If you have a video that you want me to make, then please let me know in the description box down below. And until then, I will see you in my next video.